was a silent goodbye for a Liberal Party giant.
You two have some news.
Chrystia Freeland not speaking with reporters, letting her statement do the talking. With tremendous gratitude and a little sadness, I have decided to step down from cabinet today and turn the page on this chapter in my life. The Prime Minister naming the proudly Ukrainian-Canadian Freeland as Canada's newly created special representative for the Reconstruction of Ukraine.
I think that Chrystia is a great Canadian who broke a lot of barriers. She was our first female finance minister.
I, Chrystia Freeland.
While she intends to stay on as an MP, Freeland's departure from cabinet likely ends the political career of one of Canada's highest profile politicians.
Well, that's right, guys. By now you've heard the news that Chrystia Freeland has resigned her very brief appointment as Canada's Transport Minister. And we won't be hearing her shrill voice in the House of Commons as much, so it is tempting to celebrate this as a win, but I'm not so convinced. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Johnny Says So. Make sure you smash the like button and subscribe to the channel on your way in. So, like many of you, at first I was very tempted to celebrate this news of Chrystia Freeland's resignation as a win. There's no question that her position as finance minister was disastrous, to say the least, and her position as transportation minister was not much better, which we'll get into in just a little bit. But first, I want to finish playing this global news clip announcing the resignation.
Ontario's Conservative Premier became close with Freeland during NAFTA.
I talk to her almost daily, and bi-daily, and she's a good person, and she'll do a great job over in Ukraine.
Justin Trudeau promoted Freeland to Deputy Prime Minister and eventually Finance Minister, overseeing massive deficits during COVID and inflation, giving a unique suggestion for Canadians on how to deal with the high cost of living.
I said to the kids, you're older now, you don't want to watch Disney anymore. Let's cut that Disney Plus subscription.
That's the message, right, guys? The reason you can't afford your house is your Disney Plus subscription. If you had all just canceled your Disney Plus subscription 3 years ago when Chrystia Freeland told you to, you should have enough for a down payment on a house. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Was this a helpful suggestion?
Freeland, often a lightning rod for the opposition, was the minister most associated with the Trudeau era, but she eventually helped push him out the door, resigning from cabinet just hours before she was supposed to table the fall economic statement in December. She ran to replace her old boss as Liberal leader, but managed only 8% of the vote, getting crushed by Mark Carney, the godfather to one of her children.
That's right, guys. For those that didn't know, Mark Carney is the godfather to one of Chrystia Freeland's children. Isn't that truly unbelievable? I mean, how much more evidence of nepotism do people need to understand that these people are all part of one big club? It truly didn't matter if Mark Carney or Chrystia Freeland had won the Liberal leadership bid to become Prime Minister, because their goals are one and the same. Now, Satire Squad put this one out, and this is hilarious. Chrystia Freeland just got a new juicy position from her kid's godfather, Mark Carney. Chrystia Freeland in charge of, quote, programs in Ukraine with zero oversight? The level of incestuous grifting is truly unprecedented. And sometimes satire is the best way to get through to people. So I want you to watch this clip because this is hilarious.
Chrystia, darling, sources say you're ditching cabinet for a Ukraine gig. Resignation expected, poof, like magic. My gift to you for crowning me PM without me even unpacking my London flat.
Oh, Marky Poo, after 12 years abroad and 0 MP seat time, you deserved it. I pulled every string. Now, what's this appointment? Ambassador of Endless Aid or head of the Freeland funnel to Kiev's corruption casino?
Better, special envoy for laundering loyalty. You'll oversee the next billion in humanitarian cash straight to Ukraine, the world's #1 spot for vanishing funds. Who needs audits when you've got Zelensky selfies? And hey, fat raise incoming, loyalty bonus.
Genius. I've shipped so much maple money there, it's basically our 11th province. Transport minister? Pfft. Now I'm the transitron of dirty dollars. CTV calls it heroic. I call it my side hustle.
To perfect plans and perfect patsies. Here's to washing more than just our sins.
So as hilarious as that was to watch and everything, there's actually a few very valid points in this video. Number one, and most obvious to me, being the issue of accountability. Chrystia Freeland, in this new position that's been appointed to her, is going to be a lot more able to play fast and loose with our tax dollars than she was in any of her previous appointments. And number two, being the corruption of the Ukrainian government that has been sponsored by the West. Wiretap Media puts this one out. On August 11th, 2015, Chrystia Freeland admitted that the Ukrainian government was corrupt. But more importantly, she suggests taking over their Supreme Court and discloses NATO-allied statesmen have already secured positions within their government. Now, this is a clear provocation against Russia and a big reason as to why the war broke out to begin with.
And I think something that as a Homa that we have to get over is maybe Ukraine fatigue. I genuinely believe that Ukraine now has turned a new page. And I really think that this is the moment when Ukraine is really turning onto the right path. I don't think we should be naive about it. It's not, it's far from perfect. Ivan talked about the reforms. And, of course those reforms are incomplete. Of course there is still corruption in Ukraine. And of course there is increasingly popular dissatisfaction with the government because the structural economic reforms are very painful. But I really believe this is the best government Ukraine has had in its entire history. So I think all of us should be thinking of where can we connect. And I'll give 3 quick ideas. The first comes from Petro Poroshenko. And I talked to him just before the presidential election. And he said to me, Chrystia, how many Ukrainian Canadian judges are there in Canada? I had no idea. He said, well, do you know how many Ukrainian Canadian judges there are in Canada who speak Ukrainian? I also said I had no idea. He said, well, I have this idea. The way we would get rid of corruption is have our whole Supreme Court be staffed by Ukrainian Canadian judges.
Stacking the courts? She's openly joking about something that liberals are supposed to be against. But the hypocrisy doesn't end there, guys. This is another one from Wiretap Media. Chrystia Freeland testified at the POEC that she disapproved of the Ottawa protest because the demonstrators were protesting mandates by a democratically elected government. But here she is in 2014 supporting the overthrow of a democratically elected government in Ukraine by violent neo-Nazis.
Ukraine and Ukrainians made their choice last month. In tremendously difficult circumstances, Ukrainian protesters showed the world, and most of all showed themselves, that they cared so much about democracy that they were willing to stand unarmed, facing people with guns to defend their democracy. And the wonderful thing is, it worked. It was tragic. Our heroes died, Nashi Hlopці na Maidani. But they succeeded, and they succeeded because they were right. And because Ukrainians truly choose democracy, they choose the rule of law, they choose Europe.
So Chrystia Freeland is claiming that the people of Ukraine chose Europe, when really, that couldn't be further from the truth. In reality, the West has been pushing them in this direction for a very long time, and this article from the rabble.ca does a great job breaking this down. Canada's interference in Ukrainian democracy, and it goes on to provide some very important historical context as to why we are in this situation now. Canada's role in the Maidan Revolution. In 2014, Ottawa actively assisted the ouster of President Viktor Yanukovych, who was oscillating between allying with the European Union and Russia. The revolution, or as others see it, myself included by the way, the coup, divided the Ukraine politically, geographically, and linguistically. Russia is the mother tongue of 30% of Ukrainians and as much as 75% of those in eastern border cities. And it goes on to explain Canada played a role in the Euromaidan, a wave of pro-European Union, often far-right protests in Kiev. Now that's a wild thing to say out loud, that Canada was involved in the overthrow of a democratically elected government and they used far-right protesters to do it. But it gets even darker when you consider Chrystia Freeland's family history in the region. Chrystia Freeland's granddad was indeed a Nazi collaborator. So much for Russian disinformation. Russian disinformation. You'd think they'd retire this line by now, but no. That's the kind of language they use to demonize and discredit anybody who questions why we would want to spend billions of dollars on Ukraine, and worse, potentially creating a situation where we might actually be in a military conflict with Russia, a nuclear superpower. Absolutely crazy, guys. But I'm very uncomfortable with my tax dollars going to stuff like this. Canada's embassy in Ukraine used as pawn in 2014 uprising. Canada's embassy in Kiev was used as a haven for several days by anti-government protesters during the uprising that toppled the regime of former President Viktor Yanukovych. The Harper government never fully acknowledged during the upheaval or since the depth and extent of the security breach, which had far-reaching implications on how Canadians are perceived in the region. Now, I think it's very fair to point out that it wasn't just Chrystia Freeland that was involved in this. The Harper government was in power at the time, and this is one of those situations where you can really see the existence of a uniparty in this country, because on some of the big issues that really matter, the Liberals and the Conservatives are often in lockstep. And I would like to see Pierre Poilievre prove that he is different from his predecessor on this issue, because he makes some really good points about Chrystia Freeland here, but I want to show you a moment where he really misses his chance to hammer on the present rather than the past.
Mr. Poilievre, what will Chrystia Freeland's legacy be, in your view?
That's a good question. I think it was that she resigned rather than introduce a $62 billion deficit. I think she said the Liberals were trying to force her to introduce a deficit of $62 billion. And she said, this is irresponsible, it is out of control, and it will cause massive inflation. And of course, that deficit went ahead anyway, and now it's even bigger. She's probably trying to get out of town and as far away as possible before this disastrous November budget comes, and I don't blame her.
Now, he was spot on about how wildly irresponsible Chrystia Freeland has been for the country's checkbook, and I'm not going to take that away from him. But what I will say is that this was a missed opportunity by Poilievre to really showcase just how disastrous this new appointment of hers will be as well. If you think the money that Chrystia Freeland has lost so far has been something, just wait till you see how much she's going to send to Ukraine with no accountability. But that's going to be my show for tonight, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And as always, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Johnny from Nova Scotia says thank you. Hey, Johnny from Nouvelle-Écosse, il dit merci, thank you.
Thanks to you. God bless you.
We're
from Quebec.
Yeah, Quebec.